Week 4 is here, so it's time for my score predictions and picks against the spread for every single game. Every single Wednesday we're here with this video. Let's jump into it. Seahawks at Cardinals, Thursday night football. Arizona wearing those super nice rival uniforms. They're going to have energy at home, primetime football in those sick uniforms, so they could win. They're a solid team. I don't want to overthink this one, though. The Seahawks are playing really good football right now. They're so close to being 3-0, but they're on a 2-game win streak. They had Kyler Murray in hell last year with that defense, that Mike McDonald defense, and it might be even better this year. They have been handling business not only last year against Arizona, but in the last 7 matchups. They're 7-0 straight up. They're 6-1 against the spread. On top of that, they seem to be getting a little healthier going into this game, and Arizona even more beat up. They were beat up going into last game, and they had that James Conner injury. They could get some guys back, but there's still going to be some significant guys out. James Conner, their star running back, even though Trey Benson looks solid. So I just don't trust Arizona's offense a ton, and then especially going against Seattle, who they struggled with last year. I really don't trust them. I could see Arizona coming out and scoring off the script and then maybe slowing down after that. Seattle's playing, I trust their defense. They're playing very well on offense. You got to worry about the pass, the run. So I just don't want to overthink this one. I'm going to take Seattle. Of course, Arizona has a shot at home, but Seattle minus 1.5. I mean, if you're confident with them winning, that's worth, putting some money on there because they just got to win by more than 1 point. So I have Seattle winning 23-16 in this one. Vikings Steelers, Dublin, Ireland, early Sunday morning. Should be a fun one for that fan base overseas. Few things have me siding with the Vikings here, even though this is a toss-up game that could go either way. It's going to really be about which defense is better in this game, which offense makes that extra play. But for Minnesota, they have had some success overseas in recent years. Actually, against Aaron Rodgers last year, it'll be a tough defense for him to play against. The Steelers are struggling to stop the run a bit this year, and the Vikings got Jordan Mason going last week. He looked awesome, so that could be a key as long as they run the ball enough here. It just feels like one of those games where the better defense will win, and we're used to it being the Steelers, but right now the Vikings are the better defense. They're making plays constantly. We saw that last week. The Vikings started the year off really beat up. They got a little healthier last week, and now Addison hasn't been injured, but he's back on top of that, so it's only helping the Vikings as well. Seems like they're better with Carson Wentz over J.J. McCarthy. Maybe Rodgers figures it out. Him and DK connect and they can figure out how to win this one, or maybe they make the extra plays on defense this week. But I just have a few more things siding with the Vikings here. Should be a defensive game, lower scoring, 19-16. I'm tempted to go with the under. I love the under in the Vikings-Bengals last week, but the Vikings scored 2 defensive touchdowns. Almost felt like more than that because they set their offense up last week, so the Vikings hit the over by themselves, so I guess something like that could happen again, but I would think the under hits here. I'll go Minnesota 19-16. Commanders at Falcons. I think this can be a good game that can go either way. I know it doesn't feel like that based off last week. The Commanders, without Jaden Daniels, dominate the Raiders better than expected, and the Falcons get destroyed 30-0 to the Panthers. So it kind of has everyone feeling washed, and we're still waiting to see if Jaden Daniels plays. He's expected to practice in limited fashion today. Scary Terry probably out. If Jaden Daniels is out too, maybe that has you siding towards the Falcons, but they were brutal last week. I need to trust Michael Penix more to be able to pick them. But the good news is it's a much different defense they're going against than the Panthers. You could actually argue the Commanders' defense is better, but the Panthers, a lot of zone coverage, mainly all zone coverage, which could get a little tricky for those young, inexperienced quarterbacks like Michael Penix. And the Commanders are mainly a man coverage defense. So maybe it's a little easier of a matchup for Michael Penix, but it's kind of to be determined right now. I need to trust Michael Penix in that passing game more to be able to pick them. Remember, AJ Terrell's been a little banged up, their star corner. Commanders playing well coached, playing pretty good football. They can win in several different ways. So I'm going to trust them a little bit more. Right now, it's one I would pass on just for everything I kind of explained. Kind of just want to see more. Want to know if Jaden Daniels is playing. I don't think Terry McLaurin's playing, so it's going to be a lot on Debo and the rest of those guys there. But I do like, even without Eckler, the collection of running backs. You don't know who's in, what they're going to do. That kind of works in the Commanders' favor as well. I'll take them 23-20, a game that can go either way. Saints at Bills with a very large spread. The Saints are underdogs by 16.5 going to Buffalo. And based off what the Saints have shown us, especially last week. They could lose by much more than that even, and the Buffalo Bills are very capable of beating teams by more than that. They had a little extra break as well. It's hard to just sit here and say someone's for sure going to cover 16.5, so I'm staying away from that game. I'm going to go 30-17 Buffalo. I do think the Saints offense can get something going in this game. I was tempted to have them scoring more than that. It's just going to depend on if they're in the game early or not. They very easily could be out of this game instantly. The Bills could be up 14-0, 10-0, whatever it may be, right away. And why that's important? Well, obviously that's important for everyone, but because the key for the Saints in this game is Alvin Kamara. I think Kamara can light it up in this game. I think he can rack up some touchdowns in the run and pass game. He can be very productive, very effective because of the matchup, but it's hard to run the ball and play small ball if you're trying to keep up. That was the problem for the Saints last week. So if they're able to kind of stick in this game a little bit, Kamara could have a solid game. The Saints could score more than this, but it's going to be hard to play keep up with Buffalo. They didn't really look like their normal selves on Thursday, but luckily, they were a little banged up, and luckily they have a little bit more of a break, but they're still 3-0. Bills should take care of business. 30-17 is what I got. Browns at Lions. The Browns upset the Packers last week, and they're playing really good defense against everybody they play, and the Lions made a statement, had a statement win against the Baltimore Ravens. That offense is still that elite Detroit Lions offense, and the defense looks pretty solid. They got a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson. I like this matchup a lot for the Lions. It's a little sketchy because it's the same line as the Packers, and the Browns actually not only covered, but they won the game, and it feels like they're in every game while the Ravens end up pulling away. For a little bit there, it kind of stayed close, but it does feel like the defense being that good could keep them in any game. And then you backtrack. Week 1 for the Lions, the offense was non-existent when they actually played a good defense. They haven't played a good defense since then, so it makes you wonder. The Browns, because their defense keep it close, I just love the matchup for the Lions. Couple things here. One, the Lions, one time they did struggle on offense. They played the Packers defense, who was also very good, but that is primarily a zone coverage defense. The Browns, even though they're very good, it's all man coverage. The Ravens are typically zone, but this year so far they've been man. The Lions have diced up man coverage. It's what they do. It's so easy for them to do it. There's just too many guys, too much speed, and too many talented players to account for. So the Lions will have offensive success in this game. I'm actually predicting more than maybe one would think here just because the Browns defense is so good. And maybe they don't score that much. I could see them scoring less than 27. I just love the matchup. And the defense looks really good. They're making plays, creating turnovers, getting after the quarterback. That's a problem for the Browns offense. It's a little stale right now outside of Judkins. Judkins does look pretty solid. The Lions typically stop the run very well. And maybe some garbage points for the Browns here in this game. I like the way the Lions match up. So I think they cover that 8.5. Maybe that's a little much. Maybe it's a little risky, but you can use the Lions as a parlay option, a parlay leg. Drop it down to 5.5. Should win by 6 points. If you want to play it even safer or have more games and more legs in your parlay, you can go Lions money line or -2.5, something like that. But Detroit at home, inside, match up well here. Panthers at Patriots, a good one. One of the toughest ones to pick on the week. The Patriots are actually favored by 5.5 in this one. That's a little bit surprising of a spread because you feel like it's a coin flip game. It could go either way, especially with the Patriots kind of struggling, turning the ball over, and the Panthers looking good. Not only last game, but the last 5 quarters, we'll say, they have looked dominant, but they dominated the Falcons 30-0 last week. So which Panthers are we going to get? Are they starting to turn a page, turn the corner? Is it last year's end of the year Panthers even better possibly? Are the Patriots just going to keep turning the ball over and not being able to execute? They're not necessarily super strong anywhere. Drake May looks good at times. Hunter Henry at times. The defensive front at times looks good. So this is a toss-up game. I almost want to say I'm going to pick the Patriots at home because the Panthers I think are much better at home. One, the Patriots have somewhat of an advantage at home. They're probably going to get Christian Gonzalez back. The interior defensive line could have a solid game because they have some studs on the interior defensive line. Milton Williams looks really good. And the Panthers are without 2 starting offensive linemen. Didn't really show last week. The Patriots' interior defensive line much better than the Falcons. So Drake May's been playing all right. I think they unleashed Travion Henderson a little bit more. So there are things that are siding with the Patriots, but the Panthers could be a good team. The first 2 weeks could be a fluke. They could be a really good team. It's very possible. So it's a little sketchy. But with that being said, again, I like the Patriots. But the 5.5 seems too big, right? So why not put money on the Panthers? Why even, maybe use it as a parlay leg, alternate line, 8.5, somewhere around that. I wouldn't hate that, but because the line is so odd, it kind of makes you think like, all right, Vegas, know something. They're tempting people to bet on the Panthers here is what they're doing. So it makes it a little sketchy. Maybe it's because the matchup I explained. Maybe the interior D-line takes over at home. Maybe Travion Henderson's unleashed. Maybe they don't turn the ball over and they win pretty comfortably. It's possible. So it makes you think a little bit. But to me, a good game could go either way. I'd say a must-win for both teams right here in this situation, especially the Patriots. 24-23, squeaker, Patriots win. Chargers at Giants. Jackson Dart making his debut against a suffocating Chargers defense. That's the best way to explain it. It's a very good defense. It's a very good football team right now. I have them winning 27-16 against the Giants. And at first glance, it's another one of those surprising lines. You go, it's under a touchdown. It's only -6. Makes you tempted to put money on the Chargers. And while I do have them winning by 11 because the matchup and then the much better team, I'll tell you why that line's like that. This could potentially be a trap game. I don't see the Chargers losing, though, but it could stay closer than you think, even though I'm not predicting that, because we had Jackson Darts in there. It's a tough task for a raw rookie that I have high hopes for going against this tough defense, but the offense is going to change. There's going to be a lot of different looks with Jackson Dart. He could use his legs. There's going to be a lot of design runs or read option type plays. It's really not on film for the Chargers. So they're sitting there watching Russ film like, we can't really go off any of this. We can't look for things to identify to know what to expect before the snap. We just don't know what's coming at us. So it could be a little tricky. The Giants probably could do that. Use Scadaboo and manage the clock, drain the clock, I should say. Limiting the Chargers' chances, that's definitely possible. So I could see why it's a trap. Just a couple things here. The Giants are dead last stopping the run. Amarian Hampton's really starting to pick it up as a runner and as a pass catcher. I think he runs wild in this game. I know Najee went down. Not really super worried about it. I think Hampton runs wild in this game. Herbert's been playing like an MVP, so he'll have no problem when he needs to throw the ball. But, the only thing to worry about the Giants' defense is that defensive line, the pass rush, I should say. But when you're able to run the ball like they're going to be able to run the ball and control the clock, they're going to be just fine. That defense is too good to let a rookie quarterback, just because the game plan's tricky, take over. So I'm still going to go with the Chargers winning by 11, but there is the idea of the trap in there. But I would use the Chargers as a money line pick, since the odds are a little better than what you would think, in a potential, multi-game parlay. But Chargers 27, Giants 16 is what I got. Eagles at Bucks. I do have the Bucks pulling off the upset, but very important. For me to keep this, I need Tristan Wirfs to play because the Buccaneers are already beat up on the offensive line. Wirfs hasn't played yet, but if their star tackle, maybe the best in football, comes back, they still have some issues elsewhere on the offensive line because of injuries, but that gives them a major, major boost. So if he's out, I'm very likely going to pick the Eagles. Just too many guys out. Mike Evans now, but they could get Godwin back as well. But since 2015, the Eagles have had issues. They only beat the Buccaneers one time since 2015. They have had their issues with Tampa Bay. Really, the Eagles have been consistently pretty good over the years. The one team they've consistently struggled with. They had some guys out in some of those games, but especially recently, like the last 3 meetings, which were somewhat recent, the Buccaneers just handle business. Baker Mayfield goes off in those games. Some of those Eagles defenses were elite defenses too, so he could potentially do that again. It's going to be tough if it's just Egbuka out there, but if it's Egbuka and Godwin, that's a tough game plan for the Eagles. Those are two hybrid-like receivers where they're dominant in the slot, but they also can play pretty well outside. It's like, what are these guys going to do? How are they going to use these guys? So it becomes a little tricky. The Eagles also aren't stopping the run as well as they typically do. So Bucky Irving and Rachaad White, by the way, looking pretty decent compared to last year. Both those guys could have a solid game. Baker's ball in their clutch right now. This is much tougher competition for the Bucs, and they have been playing. They can't let it come down to the wire. I mean, maybe they could. Maybe they can clutch up, win on a last-second field goal again, or touchdown. It's definitely possible, but the defense is playing very well as well. The Eagles are struggling to run the ball. Something happened, though, in the second half of that, down the stretch of that Rams game. They were able to throw the ball effectively, get the ball to their star receiver, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So does that carry over? Does it carry over full game? It's going to need to, in my opinion. So that's a little bit of a mystery. So which Eagles offense are we going to get? The elite one or the one that's a little bland and they wait around for a little bit? They can't do that stuff again because the Buccaneers will beat them. So I'm going to go, in Tampa, Baker dices up the Eagles. Typically, I think they can win in different ways. If Tristan Wirfs is back, I take the Buccaneers. If Godwin's back, I'm tempted to say Buccaneers plus 3.5. Bet that for right now. If Tristan Wirfs plays, I'd say use it as a parlay alternate line there. I don't think they're gonna lose by much if they do lose. But if Tristan Wirfs and Godwin plays, I'm looking at plus 3.5. I kind of like that. I like the Buccaneers to win if that's the case. Again, if Tristan Wirfs is out, I'm thinking the Eagles probably squeak this one off and figure out how to win just because there's too many guys out for the Buccaneers. But this should be a really good football game this upcoming Sunday. Titans-Texans, 0-3 versus 0-3. A bit of a surprise. The Texans are 0-3. Somebody's going to be 0-4. Is it really going to be Houston? I'm going to predict them to win this game 20-16. After watching them last week, I'm like, it's going to be hard to pick the Texans ever again. But boom, they're home against Tennessee Titans, maybe the second worst team in football right now. This is a good matchup for Houston, finally. And that it's a surprising line here. 7.5 for they have the over-under's really low. The Texans can't score enough points to cover 7.5. So it's like, man, the Titans gotta cover that, right? Throw money on that. But again, the line's so surprising, it seems like a trap. And as I start thinking about it and break it down like I'll do right now, the matchup does favor the Texans where maybe it could get out of hand. I'm still gonna predict somewhat of a close game because I don't trust the Texans offense enough. But this is a chance for their offense to get going because pass rush getting after Stroud has been the issue, beating up that poor offense line and making Stroud play worse than he actually is because that pressure's in his face a lot. He is struggling right now. He needs to play better. But the Titans pass rush, I mean, their interior is solid with Jeffrey Simmons, but their edge rush is brutal, probably the worst in football. So CJ Stroud has to have more time in this game, right, to get the ball out. He has the weapons to distribute the ball to. I would like for them to run the ball a little bit more. Maybe they do that as well. So maybe they get some offense going. And the Texans defense still very much is a great defense. And the Titans offense is either turning the ball over or terrible play calling. They are switching play callers, so it's something to watch out for. It's another reason maybe to pass on this game. So the Texans defense should hold the Titans to a certain amount of points here. I have them scoring 16 because they're switching play callers. I think if they didn't, they would score less than 16 against this really good defense. So 20-16, maybe consider the under, but it's kind of just, everything's kind of weird with this one. The line's high. There's a coordinator switch. Does that give the Titans a boost? I know they almost had the same path last year through 3 weeks, and in week 4 they really turned it on. So it gets a little sketchy here with this one, but I'll go Houston, a must-win for both teams, but mainly Houston. I have them winning 20-16. A good one here, the Colts, the hot Colts, 3-0, taking on the Rams, who are close to being 3-0, but they blew the Eagles game away. I'm going to go with the Rams. The Colts very well could win this game. They're a very good team. They're far better than expected. They're easily the AFC South favorites right now. I love how well balanced they are, the weapons they have, how well coached they are right now on both sides of the ball. So the Colts definitely could do damage in this game and beyond, so I don't really want to doubt them. It's kind of a gut feeling that, the first big test for the Colts, even though they did beat the Broncos, that one kind of came down to the wire. But the first big test, they got to go to LA to take on the Rams. I got a feeling about the Rams offense in this game. Just got that. I could also see a scenario where this is much lower scoring for both teams. I'm going to take my chances on this. I think the Rams offense gets going because, you have to worry about Kyren Williams in that run game. He did pretty well against an good Eagles run defense last week, but I just don't, while paying attention to that, I don't think they can account for and stop both Puka and Devontae Adams. I think they're both going to have good games here. And I think the Colts offense will do enough. Will they trying to be playing keep up where they can't use Taylor as much? It's a possibility. Maybe it doesn't have to be the case. I just feel in Stafford still balling. I feel like the Rams they're going to win because their offense this one. Just my gut feeling. So 30-23 is what I have. This would be very interesting if it was in Indy, but it's not in LA. I'm tempted to say take the Rams -3 just because my gut's saying not only the Rams are going to win, even though, my gut's not only saying the Rams are going to win, but they're going to win. They're going to score a lot of points. So I'm tempted to say -3 here. But the Rams, I know they pulled away against Tennessee, but that was close for a while. The Texans game was close for a while. Those are bad teams, and they just blew it in the second half against the Eagles. And things are, they could end up winning if they do win by 1 or 2, it's definitely possible. So maybe the Rams, if you also are somewhat confident with the Rams, maybe just using, Rams money line in a 2-leg parlay or something could be a solid idea. But I'm really looking forward to this game. Should be a good one. Jags at Niners, another toss-up game that can go either way. San Francisco at home, they're so well coached. They're closing games out right now. That defense is awesome under Robert Saleh, so I'm leaning with them. I think Christian McCaffrey could have a solid game. They should get Brock Purdy back. If they don't, Mac Jones is playing well, and this would be a revenge game. They should get Juwan Jennings back. Ricky Pearsall is playing well as well. But they do have a lot of injuries, and that could be the difference. This one, the Jags are 2-1, close to being 3-0. They're playing much better on defense than they were last year, and the offense is scoring maybe not enough, but at important times. So I could see this one going either way. But leaning with San Francisco, without Nick Bosa, though, over the years, without Nick Bosa, the Niners have struggled. But he was out pretty much all of last game, and they figured out how to win against a really good Cardinals defense. The Jags, I think, need to be tested a little bit more on both sides of the ball. So this could be a little bit more of a test, mainly going against the Niners defense in San Francisco. Another reason I'm kind of excited with the Niners here. The Jags haven't beat the Niners since 2005. Does that mean a ton? Probably not, but I thought that was interesting. And they got to go to San Francisco to play the Niners here. The main thing here, maybe it's a flaw for me, or maybe I'm thinking about this too much. I cannot get the Bengals game out of my mind for the Jags. I mean, they had it made to win that game. Browning comes in, throws 3 picks, but still comes back to beat them. You know, we saw the Bengals, how they actually are with Browning this past week. So is that still in the Jags to not be able to, play against, a tougher team that's that's really good at closing out games here in the Niners. So that's still in my mind a little bit. So I'll go with San Francisco 23-17. We do have to monitor some injuries, but because of all those injuries and this game really could go either way, it's probably one I would pass on, but I took San Francisco to win it by 6. 1-2 Ravens at 1-2 Chiefs. That's absolutely wild. Even more wild, one of these teams is going to be 1-3. What's even more wild, could the Chiefs possibly be 0-2 at home this year, because they are 0-1 currently. They're at home in this game after they were 8-0 last year at home and just consistently one of the most dominant teams at home. Part of me is like, that's really the only reason I would pick the Chiefs, though. That, and it's a point early in the season, but my gut's telling me the Ravens are just better than the Chiefs. The Ravens are struggling on defense right now. That could be a problem in this game. I think Mahomes could have a big-time game here, and that could be the issue where the Chiefs could just score enough points. But I trust the Ravens' offense. Another thing they've struggled, why they're getting knocked right now, because they're 1-2. They got really unlucky in that first game against the Bills. They probably should have won that game. And they're getting ripped because the defense is so bad. What were the 2 games out of 3 that the defense were really bad? Bills offense, Lions offense, elite offenses, actually, believe it or not, far better than I think everyone could believe it. Far better than the Chiefs right now. So they're not playing as tough of an offense. The Chiefs defense is typically really solid. I'm a little underwhelmed with it recently. I think you can out-physical them specifically. I think Derrick Henry's pissed off about the fluky fumbles. I think he gets going in this game. I think Zay Flowers gets going in this game. And the Ravens score enough points here to win it 30-24. The Chiefs just don't. I mean, they're close to being 2-1. You could say they just don't look right now. Like, they're still very good. At the end of the day, I think, but the offense isn't fully there, and I think it'll be there when Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are both back. It's not fully there. The play calling's not fully there. They're not running the ball enough. The Ravens are struggling to stop the run, but I know the Chiefs won't run the ball enough. And defensively, again, they're fine, but they don't feel like that, borderline elite or great defense we've seen especially last year, the last 2 years, we'll say. So I think the Ravens are the better team. I think they're just got a little bit too much juice, too much speed here for the Chiefs, and they win this one. I would use the Ravens plus 3.5 as a parlay. I don't see how they lose this game by more than 3 points if they do lose. So the Ravens, possible alternate line parlay option there, but this should be another really good one on Sunday. A good one here in Vegas, the Bears and the Raiders, game that could go either way. I think the home field advantage is big here in Las Vegas. If this was in Chicago on that field, home field advantage, I definitely take the Bears, but I'm feeling the Raiders in this one. And this is a tough score prediction because I could see it being close. I could see any scenario. I could see the Raiders winning big. I could see the Bears winning in very similar fashion than how they beat the Cowboys last week, where they broke out on both sides of the ball. I could see that happening again. Why the Bears could win, I think it'd be because their weapons in the passing game. They have so many. They're so deep with the rotation. Do the Raiders, with that young, thin secondary, have enough solid players to account for all those guys? Is it just going to be too much? And are the Bears going to get up early like they did against the Cowboys? Like, say it's they get off the script, 7, they get a stop, they get 10 up on the board, 14, whatever it is, it's going to be very tough for the Raiders then. The Bears are going to win the game if that's the case. So that could happen. The Raiders at home, I do think their defense is a little underrated. I think it's a little bit better than people think. If Matt Crosby gets going, which is usually the case, Patrick Graham, good defensive coordinator. And you have to worry about the pass and the run when it comes to the Raiders. And that's kind of where I'm leaning with the Raiders. Everyone complaining about Ashton Jeanty right now, but we know, very well know he's a very good running back. The Bears are really bad stopping the run. Like somehow they might be worse than last year stopping the run. And it went unnoticed last week, but it was there. The Cowboys just got down by too much where they couldn't run anymore, but you could see that Javonte Williams could run on them. So I think Jeanty has a big-time breakout game, but the key here is not getting down early, because if you do, by multiple scores, it's going to be like the Bears-Cowboys game last week. They're not going to be able to run the ball as much as they want to. So Geno's also got to take care of the football, but I'll go Raiders pulling this one off. Them at home, I think that really sides with them. The line's been back and forth. The Bears are now favored by 1.5. The Raiders were favored by 1.5 at one point. So I'll take the Raiders here. Home field advantage the key in this one. Sunday night football, the Packers at the Cowboys. I think this has potential to be an ass beating. I think it really could be. I'm going to predict it too. This line is lower than it should be, but you can explain why, because the Packers are fresh off a loss to the Browns where they choked the game, lost to maybe one of the worst teams in football and just didn't score enough points, but that's very misleading. The Browns have a very, very good defense. The Cowboys have the worst defense in football. The Packers will be able to win with the pass and the run with Josh Jacobs or all the weapons they have. I think Matthew Golden can break out in this game. They're going to be a little pissed off because of that Browns game. It's just so much easier of a matchup for them than, believe it or not, the Cleveland Browns. And the Packers defense is balling out. All 3 weeks they're balling out. Last week doesn't matter. They didn't lose because of their defense. Micah Parsons' revenge game. And the Cowboys are without CeeDee Lamb. I just don't know how the Cowboys can do enough on either side of the ball here. This could be similar to that playoff game a couple years ago where the Packers just could do anything they want here, and they get after Dak enough in this game. So I'm going to take Green Bay. I would bet them at the actual line at -6.5. I'd bump that up to 9.5 to get positive odds. I'd consider bumping it up even more. If I'm wrong, then it's possible. I could be, but I just have a feeling the Packers, just because of the far better team, but because the matchup favors them significantly. No Lamb for the Cowboys. I think they win big in this one. I have 34-16 Green Bay. 2 Monday night games. The first one, maybe the toughest game to pick on the week. The Jets at the Dolphins. The Dolphins wearing those new rival uniforms, looking nice. 26-23 Miami is what I have. I've been back and forth on this one, just picking the straight up winner, because at first I'm like, Miami's got an extra break, primetime game. They played pretty well actually against the Bills primetime last week. They have to be better than what they've shown us, right? So maybe this is the time they figure it out. The defense got much better last week, but in terms of how the year went on last year, so it could be the case in this one. So go Miami, but then part of me is like, the Dolphins been struggling to stop the run. The Jets actually can be very effective pounding the football, especially if Fields is in there, but that doesn't really matter. But with Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, so they could just win pounding the football here in this game. So I totally can see that scenario. But I'm going to go Miami. Again, extra break at home. They'll have a little hype in this game, a little energy in this game. Looked pretty decent in prime time last week. Maybe they're turning the corner. So Jets got some injuries, both sides of the ball. I'll take Miami 26-23. Wouldn't bet on it. It's right around that line. I could see this game going either way. If this line was like 4.5, plus 4.5, I'd say maybe bet on the Jets because I think it would be close. The Jets could win the game, but it's a little bit of a tricky one there, but we'll take Miami. In the second Monday Night Football game, this would have been an elite ball game if Joe Burrow wasn't hurt. So I'm pissed off about that. That would have been a great game, but I like the Broncos in this one. 28-16 is what I got. 7.5 is a big line. You kind of wish that was under 7. You wish it was 6.5. Perfect world. But I think the Broncos cover that. Their defense is better than how they've been playing. And I think they'll show that against Browning in this game, and they'll do enough to stop them. They'll create turnovers. They maybe even can score on defense. Look at what happened with the Bengals last week against the Vikings. I know the Vikings defense is currently better than the Broncos, but the Broncos are very capable of being that good. And the Broncos offense has been pretty inconsistent. 1 second it's like, whoa, I love this offense. And 1 second it's like, what is Bo Nix doing? It just doesn't look great. They're a little stale sometimes, but they'll do enough. The Bengals and their defense is well coached. I just don't think they have the talent outside of Trey Hendrickson, to be honest, and a couple other guys maybe here and there. But the Broncos will do enough. They'll be able to run the ball. Dobbins looks good. And I think Bo Nix will be effective through the air as well. So I think the Broncos could potentially win by even more than what I had. So I think they cover that 7.5. You want to play it safe, drop it down a little bit to 6.5, or you want to. I feel really good about 5.5 if you want to include that in the parlay. So I think that's a good option as well. But this is where the Broncos, they're 1-2. They very easily could be 3-0. This is where they turn the corner a little bit. I guess this game won't prove a ton because if you beat the Bengals with Jake Browning, then, whatever. But this is where they can really turn the page. And then here's a recap, all the games I picked against the spread. Again, I'm not saying to bet on all of these, of course. A lot of them are really tricky. Seattle -1.5. I did like, I went through it, throughout this video. So there's a recap of all of them on the side of me. But this video, every Wednesday, our weekly pick show. This was the one we just did that's up already for week 4. Check it out. It was one of my favorite ones that we've done ever. So I had a really fun time doing that. Power rankings already up and more content on the way. Bets video would be next. Some shorts coming out, of course. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.